Welcome to the Wholesaling Inc. podcast. I'm your host, Chris Arnold. Thanks so much for joining us today. I always love interviewing one of our REI radio students, particularly ones that have come in and you're just seeing traction, in the first 30 to 60 days. And so today we have Graylan Stewart on, and if you're tuning in today, you're going to hear, what his experience has been, what his dollar per dollar return is, the deals he's closed, what he's got in the pipeline. I mean, we're going to break these KPIs down today for you because, again, what we're seeing now is just kind of student after student coming in, getting the radio up and going, getting that ball rolling, and then talking about how to actually get it going even faster and reinvesting and getting more and more radio stations. So, Graylan, what's up, buddy? Welcome to the show, man. Glad to have you.
Hey, man. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
So for those that don't know yet, give us a quick snapshot, how long you've been in the game, where you're at, and a little bit about the strategy you're focused on.
Sure. So I discovered wholesaling in September of 2018. So right at 2 years now. And, I own a marketing company. So I was already kind of familiar with, dealing with the sales and marketing aspect, which this whole business is all of that, basically. So I just jumped right in. As soon as I discovered wholesaling, I was like, man, that's exactly what I need to be doing. So I started marketing right away, had a website built within the first couple of days, sent out postcards because that's a lot what we do in our marketing company is postcards. And I ended up getting 7 deals my very first month. I actually closed on 7 deals in October of 18.
How in the world did you close on 7 deals?
Yeah.
Wait, back it up.
Yeah, it was crazy.
What did you do to close on 7 deals in the first month? Like, how did you do
I know. It was nuts. So I discovered wholesaling, it was probably close to mid-September, maybe early to mid-September. So I had marketing out by mid-September for sure. And I was trying to plan it to where the postcards would hit on a Monday, right? Because me and my wife, we had a trip planned to Vegas. So long story short, I was getting calls on the Saturday in Vegas. The postcards hit early. So I was like, oh no, this is a call. I was kind of nervous because it was like my first seller call, right? And I was like, we got to go to the room, So I ran to the room.
The Texas Hold'em table and go up to the
room. It was crazy. We were just walking down the strip, and I started getting calls. So I'm like, we got to go to the room real fast. I spent money on this. I'm going to make it work. So anyways, I locked up 2 deals over the phone in Vegas for Oklahoma City. My first day, I got calls, basically. And, but yeah, so once we got back home, we got other stuff coming in and ended up getting 7 deals locked up before the end of September. And our first one closed October 3rd. So it was a pretty quick turnaround, and we closed on 7 that month. We did like 72 grand. Yeah. My very first month.
What did that do for you mentally? Again, people are listening right now and they're going, wow, you came out of the gates just fine.
Yeah.
What shifted in you, whether that was in your head or emotionally? What happened when that
happened? It was pretty awesome because my marketing company on a good month would bring in 50 and way less profit margin. You know what I mean? So it was cool because I was like, man, this is exactly what I thought it would be. I wasn't surprised because I knew I could do it because it's already what I've been doing just for different things, as opposed to having real estate as a vehicle. So, but it was definitely a light bulb. Like, this is it. This is what I'm going to be doing forever.
Like the moment you knew, I can't go back. Something has changed. It's like that old saying, you stretch something, far enough, it will never return to that same position. You just can't go back. So I love that.
Yeah.
So people always love to know, so far, before radio, what has kind of been your bread and butter strategy? Where most of your opportunities been coming from?
Yeah. So, I started out as direct mail exclusively because that's what I already knew. But I did the first 4 months or so. I was doing 70 plus every single month, but I was like, okay, I gotta somehow figure out how to scale this. Right. So I went down that path trying to figure that out. I added cold callers and that kind of thing. That's really all I did. I did a little bit of RVM, initially, after the first couple months. But it took me a year to really get down the right path, really, until really early in 2020 when I really figured it out to where I had the systems in place and people started getting people in place, to help. So going forward since January of this year, really it's been a lot of Facebook, RVM, SMS, cold calling, still doing direct mail, but more targeted. So not just blast list, that kind of thing. And also we're getting referrals, here and there, do some JVing a little bit. But for the most part, it was RVM, SMS, cold call, Facebook, and then added radio.
That as well. As I talk to a lot of people, I was just doing another podcast with Paul Lazelle. It's the foundational 5, right?
Yeah.
A lot of people are doing cold calling, RVMing, text blasting, some type of digital marketing, right?
Yep.
Along with.
And we do SEO, obviously, because we have marketing companies, so we do that. Yeah.
Well, man, let's hop in. Let's talk about this radio thing, right? You're a guy that's been out there. You've got a lot of marketing strategies. I mean, heck, you got a marketing background, right? This makes this podcast even more interesting. What first attracted you to radio? Why give it a try? What were the qualities you're like, you know what? This is something I think I'd like to see how this works in my business.
Yeah. I mean, I saw one of your podcasts. This is how I first reached out to you guys. And I was like, man, it makes sense what you say. It's like there's no competition on radio. I think there is one other guy on the station I'm on, but that's really it. Whereas SMS, everybody does. RVMs, everybody does. Cold calling, same thing. So that's what intrigued me. I was like, okay, I don't even really care what it costs. If there's no competition, then it's a no-brainer for me.
Your deal is like, hey, let me do something where there's virtually no competition.
Yep.
And we talked about this again. And I think Graylan, as a marketing guy, you would agree with this. It doesn't matter how good you are at working the marketing strategy. If it's saturated, it's going to be really difficult to get the ROI, because at some point it's just going to be hard to pull that out because the competition level just throws everything off. Have you found that to be the case?
Yeah, that's definitely true. Obviously, the more saturated it is, the more difficult it is. However, if you have a good team in place and you really do your follow-up like you should, you're still going to get deals. So that's what's cool, is I'm still doing those things and we still get deals from those every month. But I'm glad we added radio because now we got more. You know what I mean? Because I'm always looking for how can I add a few more deals per month, because I've already maxed out all these other channels, basically. So what can I do to keep traction, keep gaining?
And I hope you guys, if you're listening, heard Graylan on that saying, hey, if you're working something right now that's highly competitive or saturated, don't throw it away. He's saying focus on the efficiency, focus on the speed, because you're going to win that game based on speed and great follow-up. So I think that's just some wisdom being shared right there as well, which is great. Now, everybody wants to know, like, setting up radio, again, you've set up a lot of different things. I always love this question. Scale of 1 to 10, 10 being super hard, 1 being easy. How difficult was it to set up radio, this whole program piece?
So setting up the whole concept behind it is super easy, actually, but getting on there to get the pricing that you really want, we're always looking for deals, because that's just our nature, right? So getting the right deal was the hardest part, but actually getting it all set up, was super easy.
Yeah.
Like I literally recorded my ad one day and 2 days later I was live, and then we got a call the same day I was live, the first day, so that part was super easy. And then integrating that into our Podio, easier than any other channels, because there's not all these extra things you have to do. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And if you're listening, again, we always like to tell you, like, the real story of radio. I always just say there's one hurdle Grayling with radio, and that's negotiating with these radio stations, because we're teaching, our students how to buy radio like you buy your real estate at a deep discounted price. Can everyone run out and buy properties at, 70 cents on the dollar? No, that requires some skill level. We're doing the same thing on the radio side as well. So you get, obviously, your radio set up. Let's talk about the cost. If you don't mind me asking, how much are you paying for radio per month?
We're paying $1,200.
How many ads per month are you getting with $1,200?
I get 100.
So how much is that per 60-second spot?
It's like $20, I think, roughly.
Expensive, right? So can you, again, this is what I learned about radio as I was doing it. Would you have ever imagined you could have got on a radio station, and advertised a 60-second spot for $20? It's still crazy.
No way. Yeah. And supposedly I've heard that there's even deals like that on TV, but I don't know. I might look into it.
Absolutely. If there is, make it happen. So, if you listen, we always say the thing that pushes people away from things like radio and TV as an assumption is that it's not affordable. And I can tell you, Grayland's at $1,200. Our student range for the first station is between $500 a month to $2,000. I would say that the majority of our students fall within that range. That's really reasonable to get up on that first station. And then, of course, to start closing deals and snowball that into more stations, which is the goal. So you've been live now for 60 days, correct? Yep. And you and I were talking, and in 60 days, you've gotten 34 calls. Is that correct?
Yep. 34 actual calls, yeah.
And then again, I wanted to break down some numbers because here's the thing I admire about Graylan. I was talking to him. He literally was looking off the Excel, off his KPIs. I was like, this guy knows his numbers. So we're going to talk KPIs because that's the way I am. I love tracking everything. So if we do the math on there, you're spending $1,200 a month, multiply that by 2, that's $2,400. Divide that by the call volume. Your cost per lead right now is $70.
Yep. Yeah. $70. And that's every lead. That includes the people that are like, do you have anything for rent? It's all those.
Yeah. So, every call. So it's $70. Yep. When we say cost per lead, we're almost saying cost per call here.
Yep.
It's interesting. Mine in Dallas is $72. So you and I are running pretty close on that as well. So within this time frame of 60 days, how many deals have you locked up under contract?
We have 6 under contract currently and one other one that's on the way right now. So
I love this, by the way. What do you call a contract on the way?
It's a cow. Yeah. So we could just talk to our team like, hey, we got any cows? They're like, yeah, I got 1 or 2 or whatever, so.
I told Graylan, I was like, I'm going to use that language in my culture. It's cool, man. It's like, how many cows you got? Contracts on the way. I'm always excited when I hear something, that someone hasn't said before. So again, if you're building culture, these little things matter. So 6 deals. Of those, 1 is closed out already, correct? Mm-hmm. And then you have another 2 deals that are closing. One is $20K, the other one a little bit smaller at $7K. But we were taking everything that you've produced in the first 60 days, and we figured conservatively that your dollar per dollar return is $13. So let me explain that if you're new. The way to track marketing is to know your dollar per dollar return. If I spend $1, how many dollars do I get back? I always tell people with radio to expect $3 to $4, which is fundamentally tripling to quadrupling your investment. Graylan right now, because he's got such a small ad spend in his market, he's getting $13, right, Graylan, so far?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's right. That's pretty good.
Yeah,
I'll take it.
That's pretty good. That's a really good return to start out 1 to 13. Now, I will say this, we want to check in with Graylan a few months from now. I think that will drop a little bit, but I think you'll be way above me. I'm $3.50 in Dallas, which is great. But man, with your ad spend being as little as it is, I think you're definitely going to stay above probably $4 pretty easily as well. So
absolutely.
That's awesome. Yeah. So I have another question for you. Now that you've set up radio, and again, you're 60 days in, anything else that's happened that you've liked, as a characteristic? Like some people are like, I love that it's set it and forget it. Like I don't have to worry about it. Others are like, I love that I feel like I'm becoming an authority in my market. Like vendors are calling me and people are calling me to do business. Anything that you've seen yet in the first 60 days?
Yeah. I mean, as far as a marketing standpoint, I do love that it's set it and forget it, because that's the hardest part about being consistent in what you do in marketing, because you always got to set it up for the next month or whatever, whether it's direct mail or RVMs or whatever. So I do love that, because it's you record the ad and they play it and you're done. You just wait for the calls to come in. You know what I mean? So yeah, I love that the best.
The best way, Graylan, you're a marketing guy, to be consistent is to automate the consistency.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And again, you can't really automate, direct mail, things like that, because they require a lot of tweaking.
Yep.
But the thing about radio is it's automated because we're outsourcing all of the work to the radio company. They're responsible for playing the ads. I mean, Graylan, let me ask you this. Do you have to do anything else other than answer the phone and just pay your bill monthly? Like seriously?
Yeah, I mean, I don't even answer the phone, so I literally, and I don't even pay the bill because it's auto draft. You know what I mean? So it's 100% automated for me. So it's great.
You
Right.
just trumped my point, which I love. So you
Yeah.
are actually truly set and forget at this point. You
Yeah.
don't even have to do it.
Absolutely.
Now that's interesting. I want to hit on that point. If you're not answering the phone yourself, who's answering these calls?
Yeah, I have two acquisition managers that take all the inbound leads, whether it's calls or Facebook leads or whatever it is. So
Okay.
they're responsible for that.
So what has been their fill on the first 60 days comparing this lead volume to something like direct mail? Have they said anything to you about the quality of the lead, or, hey, we're not getting hate calls, or what?
I mean, they definitely know that those are hot leads. You know what I mean? Because, I mean, on occasion you get one that, hey, you got something for rent or whatever. But for the most part, it's somebody that's ready to sell their house. And they trust you because you're on the radio. You know what I mean? It's not someone reaching out to you cold by email, text, or RVM or direct mail. This is actually people wanting to talk to you. So that's what's cool.
So you find that you're starting at a different place, maybe further down the know me, like me, trust me road than you are with the other sources, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
How much further do you feel like you're down that road with the radio lead versus, let's say, something that's, you know, call or text? What's the difference?
Yeah, I would say here's a good way that I would say it is, you know, because on the average deal that we get, we probably follow up 12 to 15 times to get a contract. On radio, it's probably a third to half of that.
Really?
You know, just because, you know, you've already kind of skipped half of those steps. They're to know who you are and trust who you are, and they reached out to you. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I would say that it probably takes maybe 6 follow-ups.
So that's great, which then frees up your system and your time because you're not having to do as much follow-up to get this deal executed.
Exactly.
Yeah, I love it. No, and again, you and I were talking about just efficiency by nature. And, you know, a lot of you are listening. A lot of people have talked to me like, hey, I want to expand my marketing strategy, but I don't want to feel like I launch an entirely new job position when I do that. And so what Graylan and I are saying as we're talking through this is the great thing about radio, it's set and forget it. But on top of that, right, it's just a lot less stress on the system overall. But that may be a good way to do it. Like maybe I like to say like it's pretty low maintenance versus something that would be high maintenance.
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Very cool, man. So what are you thinking, Graylan? Again, I know you're 60 days in, but where do you potentially want to go with radio? You think you want to add on more stations, kind of sit where you're at? Again, I'm sure your wheels are starting to spin a little bit. What do you think your next plan of action is?
Yeah, I mean, I would love to add more stations, you know, because that is the hardest part is negotiating these deals. But hopefully, as time goes on, I'll have stations reach out to me, and then maybe I'll have the upper hand, you know, as far as negotiating goes. So, yeah, I'll add as many as I can. I mean, I'm definitely not afraid to spend money. I want to spend a lot of money because I know I'm going to get that money back. So I'm all about that. Yeah.
The odds are definitely in your favor. And again, I want to speak to that, Graylan. You're not there yet. But, you know, I've recently interviewed Mitch Caluzzi. He was on a previous podcast, if I remember correctly, somewhere around 11 to 12 stations in his market. Joe Terrio was another guy interviewed in REI Radio. I believe he somewhere, I can't remember, like 15, if I remember correctly. Those guys have told me, which is the same at where I'm at, is at this point, don't really call radio stations. At that point, you're being heard all over your market. They call you. And I love what Mitch says. It's like, I hold the trump card. I have the authority at that point because they initiated the call. They're now calling me to ask me if I would consider advertising on their station. Again, that's starting at a much different position than that first station in which you're like, hey, I'm Graylan, I'm interested. And they're like, who are you? You know what I'm saying? So all I'm going to tell you is just give it a little bit of time as your message gets out there, as you get on another couple stations, and before you know it, they'll be knocking on your door. And you'll again, we always say the stations can sometimes be a little bit cocky, Graylan. You'll be able to be the cocky one.
Yeah, I can't wait for that. I mean, it's just like the leads that's coming in. You know, you're skipping the steps. It's just reversed. With the radio stations, you're skipping all those steps, you know, in this case. So
The tables will turn. The tables will turn.
Absolutely.
So if you're listening, right, and you're getting ready for, again, this is business planning time. We're now in October. If you're not, I'd be telling you, man, in fourth quarter, we start our business planning so that we have our plan done. We do everything we need to do to be able to execute and get everything ready to follow through with that plan come 2021. So I always want to plant that seed, be doing your business planning in October. And you're trying to decide what you're going to do. Radio is the way to go. Here's the other thing I would say, Graylan, too, and I always remind our students, we're coming out of a very challenging season, and you're hearing this data coming out of, let's remind ourselves of one of the more challenging years that we've had, right? Yeah. This has not been a normal year. So I just remind people, can you imagine 2021 when things are back to normal? Again, we got elections going on right now, Graylan. You know, you got COVID this year, all of those type of things. And we're talking about you getting a 1-13 return during the midst of a crazy time. So now is the time for radio. So again, book a call, find out if your market's open. Again, we run exclusivity, but go to wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. Again, wholesalinginc.com/REI radio. Book a call, come into this community. And Graylan, you're in the alumni with this as well. We want to take this way further than radio. We want to work with our students past the point of really moving them from being entrepreneurs in the sense of working in the business to entrepreneurs that work on the business, really turning them into businesses. And Graylan, you're kind of already like that. You're not even taking the calls, which I think is great. So wrapping up, Graylan, someone's listening going, man, I heard about this a couple months ago. This has now been the third or fourth one. Should I make this decision? Like, what would you tell someone that may be on the fence on, hey, is this radio a potentially good marketing channel to add to my tool belt? What would you tell them?
Yeah, I would say, absolutely, it's worth it. Obviously, your first deal more than pays for it, and you're getting, infinity returns from there on, so it's definitely worth it. Especially if you can get in now while your city is open, so you don't have tons of competitors, which is one of the great things I loved about it. It won't get saturated, like a lot of other things do. So, and a lot of times if you do hear other competitors come on later, you just know that they paid a lot more than you. So, because they don't know how to negotiate it right.
They're copycats way overpaying what we pay for. That's kind of our secret sauce. And I love that you know that. And they're going to go out of business because they don't know how to buy radio like we do. Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Graylan, thanks for coming on, man. I can tell
thank you.
You're a savvy guy. You're running this thing like a business. And, of course, you got in with radio, did what you need to do, executed on it. Now you got it up. And now we're going to talk about how to snowball this thing for you.
Yes, sir.
So to the rest of you guys, thanks for tuning in. Until next time, we will talk to you soon when we add more value. Talk to you later.